Welcome to week 1 of Empower ED National Interdisciplinary Research Program or ENIRP Summer 2026. My name is Kinza Atif and I'll be one of your research mentors as well as the program co-lead. On behalf of the entire ENIRP team, I want to congratulate you on becoming part of this program. We are genuinely excited to be working with all of you over the coming weeks. Before we begin, let's quickly mark today's attendance. Please pause the video for a moment and drop an appreciative comment below. Once you have done that, you can continue watching. Okay, so let's get into it. ENIRP is meant to be an introductory level course. We will be teaching you everything about statistical research, writing abstracts to read statistics themselves. And we hope that this program serves as the foundation for your future in science and research. It will run for 8 weeks from July to September 2026. And you will be having pre-recorded lectures uploaded every Thursday 10 p.m. at Pakistani time on this very YouTube channel, and you will also be having live query sessions on Google Meet every weekend. So you can join them to get your queries addressed and also discuss assignments with your research mentor. You can also contact your assigned mentor on Discord. So after every lecture is uploaded on YouTube, the assignment will be uploaded on Google Classroom and it will be due before the next lecture. So by the end of this program, you'll have written a complete research paper. And to help you understand what the final product looks like, we have included an example research paper. So here's this research paper that you can open yourself and take a look at it. So there are two things. There are two things to remember about when you're viewing this paper. First is that the paper is only meant to give you an idea of the structure and writing style. And the second is that you cannot copy anything from it because this paper is actually incomplete, okay? So it is only created to be used as a reference whenever you're unsure about how a section of your own paper should look like. So yeah. And also there's one interesting thing that you can notice. The study shown in the example did not find a strong relationship between the variables, right? And that's perfectly fine. In research, getting unexpected results is completely normal. Your goal is not to prove that your idea is correct, it's simply to discover what the data actually says. So sometimes your hypothesis will be supported and sometimes it would not. So both outcomes are completely valuable and you should not worry about either. Okay, so now let's quickly look at what you will be learning over the coming weeks. Every week, you will be completing one small part of your research paper. Instead of writing everything at once, you'll divide the work into manageable pieces, okay? So you learn how to write your introduction, your background, your methodology, results, discussion, and finally your conclusion. So by the end of the program, all these sections will come together to form one complete research paper. Think of it like building a house. You do not build the roof first, okay? So you just build one section at a time until the whole structure is complete. And we will be doing exactly the same with your research paper. So before we continue, there are a few important rules everyone should understand. First is the timeline. Because this is a hands-on research program, every assignment depends on the previous one, okay? Now, if you fall behind, it becomes much harder to catch up. So please try to submit your assignments on time. If you're facing an emergency and genuinely need an extension, let your mentor know before the deadline, okay? Communication is always appreciated, so if you are experiencing something like that, just please make sure to communicate. Next, if you would like to have feedback on your work before submitting it, don't wait until the last minute. Ask your mentor at least 48 hours before the deadline so they have enough time to review our work properly and just provide feedback. Now let's talk about AI. AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini can help you understand concepts, but they must not write your research paper for you. And please take strict note of this. The purpose of this program is for you to learn research and scientific writing. So your assignments may be checked, and using AI to generate your paper could lead to your removal from the program, and we'll be very strict on this. Finally, let's discuss data. The survey responses collected during this program are real participant data, so please keep this data confidential. and don't share raw responses with others. However, after the program, you are welcome to use the dataset for future educational projects if needed. So now let's finally get into this. The type of research you will be conducting during ENIRP is called a correlation study. Although that may sound like a complicated scientific term, the idea is actually quite simple. In a correlation study, we're trying to find out whether two variables are related to each other. A variable is simply something that can vary or change, such as age, gender, study hours, exercise habits, or opinions about a particular issue. In your research, one variable will be something you're personally interested in studying, and you'll create a survey question to measure it. The second variable will usually be a demographic characteristic that's already included in the survey, such as age, gender, location, or educational background. For example, you might ask participants how many hours they exercise every week and then compare those responses with participants' ages. Your research question would then become, is physical activity related to age? Similarly, you could ask participants how strongly they agree with statements about climate change and compare those responses with their educational background to investigate whether education influences their opinions. When designing survey questions, there are several important principles to keep in mind. First, always respect participants' privacy by avoiding questions that ask for personal identifying information such as names or phone numbers. Second, avoid leading or biased questions that encourage participants to answer in a particular way. For example, asking, don't you think social media is harmful? Already suggests the answer that they may give. Instead, ask a neutral question, such as, what is your opinion about the impact of social media? Third is that you need to use clear and simple language so that everyone can easily understand your questions regardless of their educational background. Finally, make your questions very specific. Instead of asking, do you exercise? Ask something like, on how many days each week do you exercise for at least 30 minutes? Specific questions produce much more useful data. Remember that. Okay. Now, there are four main types of questions you can include in your survey. The first is the yes or no questions, which is useful whenever there are only two possible responses. For example, asking, do you play sports regularly only requires participants to answer yes or no, right? The second type is qualitative multiple choice, where participants choose between different categories rather than numerical values. For example, asking, which social media platform do you use most often, with options such as Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and other things. Although this type of question is sometimes useful, it can be more difficult to analyze statistically. So we generally recommend keeping the number of answer choices to no more than four. The third type is quantitative multiple choice, where participants choose from numerical ranges instead of giving exact numbers. For example, if you're studying social media users, you might ask, how many hours do you usually spend on social media each day? With answer choices such as less than 1 hour, 1 to 3 hours, or 4 to 6 hours, and more than 6 hours. Using ranges makes it much more easier to compare groups during data analysis. The final type is the Likert scale, which you'll probably use most frequently. This type of question measures opinions or attitudes by asking participants to rate how strongly they rate or they agree or disagree with a statement on a scale, typically from 1 to 7. For example, the participants could rate their agreement with the statement, I feel stressed before exams, where 1 means strongly disagree and 7 means strongly agree. This format is especially useful when measuring perceptions, beliefs, or opinions. Remember that the survey template you'll receive already include that you are going to receive will already include demographic questions such as age, gender, location, and economic status. Your responsibility is simply to create your own research question, not the demographic questions. So I hope that is very clear. Now, before collecting data, researchers usually make an educated prediction about what they expect to find. This prediction is called a hypothesis. And a hypothesis isn't something you know is true, it's simply your best guess based on logic or previous knowledge. So now let's look at the examples on the slide. The first example says increased sugar intake is correlated with family history of addiction. This means the researcher predicts that people who consume more sugar may also be more likely to have a family history of addiction to that sugar. At this stage, it's only a prediction. The researcher still needs to collect data to determine whether this relationship actually exists. The second example states that people between the ages of 13 and 19 have the highest levels of anxiety. Again, this is not presented by a proven fact. It's simply a hypothesis that will be tested by collecting survey responses from participants of different age groups and comparing their anxiety levels to test out the statement. Now, the third example suggests that people from different geographic regions in Europe are more likely to disagree with climate change. Here, the researcher predicts that opinions about climate change may vary depending on where people live. After collecting responses, the researcher can compare participants from different regions to see whether the prediction is actually supported. Now, one thing all these examples have in common is that they describe relationships, not causes. A correlation study can tell us that two variables tend to occur together, but it cannot prove that one variable caused the other. So, for example, if students who spend more time studying also report getting better grades, we cannot immediately conclude that studying alone caused the better grades. Other factors such as motivation, teaching quality, or family support might also play a role. That's why researchers are always careful to say that two variables are correlated rather than claiming that one causes the other. A good hypothesis should also be testable, meaning you can collect data to investigate it. It should be falsifiable, meaning the data could prove it wrong. Finally, it should be clear and specific so that everyone understands exactly what relationship you're trying to investigate. Alright, so now we're done with most of our lecture. It's just a few of your tasks that we need to go through. So the first thing you need to get done with is coming up with your research questions. Each person will come up with one question that would not include demographic details. You can start by thinking about a hypothesis as that will help you come up with a question based on factor 1 that we discussed earlier. Just think about your hypothesis. It doesn't need to be finalized just yet. So, okay. Now, talking about the survey, we will send out a survey with all your questions on. Everyone must get at least 15 people to fill out the survey by the deadline. And the deadline of the assignment will be due by next Thursday, which is 16th July. Any questions that you have can be asked from your designated mentor on Discord. You can also sign up for this week's live query session. The link will be shared on the Discord server. And lastly, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next lecture. Good luck with your first research question.